I'm Anna, and to be honest, I've never really been great at explaining myself. But I can say this: life hasn't always been easy, and I've had my fair share of heartbreak and frustration. Yet through it all, I've managed to hold on to the things that matter most: family, love, and the hope that I can make a difference, no matter how small. It all started one afternoon when Sarah, my best friend, showed up at my door, her face flushed with anger. She slammed the door behind her and started pacing, barely able to keep her words in check. "I just can't do this anymore, Anna," she yelled. "I don't understand why you're so calm. How can you just sit there and let it all happen?" I could see the pain and rage in her eyes, and I knew there was something deeper than just her frustration. The question was, what had happened to her? Why was she so angry at the world? And why was she pushing everyone away, especially me? That's when everything started to unravel. The tension between us was thick, and I was struggling to figure out how to help her. But in the process, I realized that sometimes people who are closest to you, like Sarah, can hurt the most when they feel misunderstood or alone. The truth, however, was more complicated than I could have imagined. And that's when I understood the true power of forgiveness, patience, and the bond that had always held us together, even when it seemed like it might break. I had always prided myself on being a patient person, but today was different. My best friend Sarah had once again failed to show up for something important: my baby shower. We had been friends for over 20 years, ever since we were little girls playing in the backyard, dreaming about what our futures would hold. We promised each other we'd be there for every big moment in our lives, supporting each other through marriages, pregnancies, and even the challenges we never saw coming. So why was she acting this way now? I glanced at my phone again. The call had gone straight to voicemail, just like the last 10 times. I tried to keep my composure, smiling at the other guests who were arriving. But inside, something felt off. My excitement for today had been dampened by the absence of the one person who had always promised to be there. "Sarah's probably caught up in something," I said to myself, trying to calm my nerves. "She'll be here soon." But the knot in my stomach tightened with each passing second. I felt the weight of everyone's expectations on me, the smile on my face, the hostess who had planned this perfect day. When Sarah finally walked in, an hour late, she didn't even seem sorry. Her eyes were tired, her hair a mess, and she didn't even apologize for keeping everyone waiting. "Where have you been?" I asked, trying to hide my frustration. "I've been calling you all day." She looked at me, almost dismissive. "I had to take care of something more important than your baby shower." Her words cut deeper than she probably realized. "More important?" I echoed, trying to hold back tears. "This is important too, Sarah." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she just shrugged and waved her hand dismissively, like it didn't matter. "Let's just get started with the games," she said flatly, already moving away to speak with Mindy, who had taken over organizing the games in Sarah's absence. I stood there for a moment, staring at Sarah's retreating figure. She wasn't acting like the friend I knew. Something had changed. But what? We started the first game, and I tried to focus on the laughter, the lightheartedness, the excitement, but it all felt so hollow. I watched as people played the games, laughed, and won prizes, but I couldn't bring myself to fully join in. My mind kept drifting back to Sarah. What was going on with her? Why had she been acting so strange since she left her husband Chris? I decided to confront her. "Sarah, what's going on with you?" I asked when we finally had a moment alone. "You've been so distant lately. You're not acting like the person I used to know." She crossed her arms, avoiding eye contact. "I don't know what you're talking about," she muttered, clearly not wanting to engage. "No, you're not the same. Ever since you left Chris, you've been different. What happened to our plan? We were supposed to have kids together, to raise them side by side so they could grow up together like we did." Sarah's expression hardened, and she sighed deeply. "I don't know, Jackie. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I thought I knew what I wanted, but I don't." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So what? You just gave up on everything we promised each other? On everything we planned?" She shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. "I didn't give up," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just changed my mind." "Changed your mind?" I repeated, feeling the anger welling up inside me. "You can't just change your mind like that, Sarah. We've been through so much together. I thought you were my friend, my best friend." "I am your best friend," she shouted, then immediately softened, her voice cracking. I don't know how to fix everything I've messed up." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there watching her, and for the first time in our friendship, I felt a deep sense of disappointment. Was this really happening? Was my best friend really telling me that she didn't care about the plans we'd made since childhood? But instead of confronting her further, I turned back to the party. I had to. The guests were waiting. They didn't know what was really going on behind the scenes. They didn't know about the promises Sarah had broken or the way I felt betrayed. As the final game was announced, I tried to refocus. The last game, guess the baby's name, should have been fun, but all I could think about was Sarah. How could I go on pretending everything was okay when I felt so abandoned by the one person I thought I could always count on? "Okay, everyone," Mindy called out, breaking my thoughts. "This is it, the final game. Who can guess Jackie's baby's name?" I smiled weakly, trying to push past the pain in my chest. Everyone took turns guessing, and as the moment approached for Sarah to make her guess, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this game would bring us back together. Maybe Sarah would say something that made everything feel right again. She stood up slowly, her gaze shifting nervously around the room. I think I know what it is." "Go ahead, Sarah," I said, trying to sound encouraging, even though my heart was breaking. "Jackie, I know we've been through a lot, but I remember our promise. You always said you wanted to name your daughter after me, Sarah." A lump formed in my throat, and I felt tears welling up. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to pretend that everything was okay, that we were still the friends we used to be. But I couldn't. Not after everything that had happened. I wanted to name her after you, Sarah," I said, my voice trembling. "But you stopped being the person I thought I knew." Her face fell and I saw the guilt flash across her eyes. "Jackie, I never meant to hurt you." "You didn't just hurt me," I said quietly. "You broke me." I tried to hold it together, but the tears were unstoppable now. They fell in a steady stream, soaking my cheeks as I stood there in front of Sarah, the person who had been my closest friend for years. I didn't know what to say anymore. The words I had prepared, the ones I thought would bring us back together, seemed so inadequate now. "Jackie, please," Sarah whispered, her voice cracking. "I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know how to handle everything and I got lost." I wiped at my face, trying to regain some control, but it was so hard. "You could have at least talked to me, Sarah. You could have told me what was going on, but instead you just shut me out." She looked down, clearly ashamed, but I wasn't sure if I could forgive her. Not yet. Not after everything. "I'm sorry. I am," she said softly. "But please, don't think I don't care about you. I couldn't handle it. I thought if I could just avoid everything, maybe it would all go away. But it didn't, Jackie. It never did." I nodded slowly, understanding what she was trying to say. I knew she was struggling, but I didn't know how to help her anymore. Maybe I was being selfish, but I needed my friend to be there for me too, to show up when it mattered. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet, Sarah," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "It feels like you've given up on us, on our promise." She stepped closer, her hand reaching out for mine, but I pulled away. The gap between us felt so much wider now. "Please, Jackie. You mean everything to me. Everything. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." I stared at her for a long moment, my heart torn between the love I had for her and the hurt she had caused. "I don't know if you can, Sarah. I don't know if I can believe in our friendship anymore." There was silence between us. The laughter from the other guests seemed so far away, as if they were in a different world. I felt numb, like I was detached from everything I knew. How had things gotten so complicated? It was supposed to be a simple day of celebration, a moment where I could share my joy with the people I loved. But now it felt like everything was falling apart. "Why didn't you tell me, Sarah? Why didn't you let me help?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I would have been there for you no matter what." She swallowed hard, tears welling in her eyes. "Because I was ashamed. I was ashamed of how I felt. I didn't want to admit that I couldn't have kids. I didn't want you to see me as weak." I felt a pang in my chest. "But we promised each other. We promised we'd raise our kids together, and now I don't know if I can count on you anymore." Sarah looked at me, a mixture of guilt and regret in her eyes. "I know, Jackie. I know I broke that promise. But I never stopped wanting that. I never stopped wanting to have kids with you and raise them together. I just didn't know how to deal with everything. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I stood there processing her words. Could I forgive her? Could I let go of the hurt and find a way to rebuild our friendship? It wasn't going to be easy. I knew that. But deep down I wanted to believe in Sarah again. I wanted to believe in the promise we made when we were little girls, when life seemed so much simpler. "Maybe we can try to fix this," I said quietly, my voice still thick with emotion. "But it's going to take time. I don't know how long, but I need you to show me that you're still the friend I used to know." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I will, Jackie. I will do whatever it takes to earn back your trust." The tension between us seemed to lift slightly, but I knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. It would take time, patience, and a lot of work to rebuild what had been broken. But in that moment, I realized something. Maybe the first step in healing was accepting the imperfections of the people we love. Maybe it wasn't about holding on to old promises, but about making new ones. Sarah reached for me again, and this time I didn't pull away. We embraced, not as the people we used to be, but as the people we could still become, with time and forgiveness. "We'll get through this," I whispered. "We'll get through this together." The atmosphere in the room had shifted. The games continued, but the lightheartedness of the day seemed dimmed by the emotional conversation that had just taken place. I forced myself to smile as I rejoined the group, but the weight of the conversation lingered in my mind. As the shower continued, I caught glimpses of Sarah every now and then, and even though things weren't fixed yet, there was a small part of me that felt hopeful that we could repair our friendship, even if it took time. And maybe, just maybe, we could still raise our kids together, like we had always dreamed. Later, as the guests started to leave, I found myself sitting alone for a moment, reflecting on the day. Sarah came up to me, her face still tear-streaked but a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she said quietly. I smiled softly, realizing that sometimes the people we love make mistakes, but that doesn't mean they don't deserve another chance. "I'm not giving up on you, Sarah. I'm just learning to trust you again." We hugged again, and for the first time that day, it felt like we were both moving forward, no longer stuck in the past. I looked at Sarah, sensing the confusion and pain in her eyes. She had been through so much, I knew that, but the way she was reacting to me, to everything, felt so different. She wasn't the Sarah I once knew. I wanted to understand more. I wanted to know exactly what had caused her to change like this. "Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "you told me everything happens for a reason. Why have you become so distant? You're not the same." Sarah stayed silent for a long while, as if unsure of where to begin. She looked down at her hands, fingers tightly pressed together, then let out a soft sigh. I don't know how to say this, Jackie. I know I've changed, but it's not as simple as you think." I sat down next to her, trying not to push her too much. "You don't need to keep it all inside anymore. I'm your friend, Sarah. You can tell me what happened." Sarah took a deep breath and began speaking, her words measured but genuine. "I met him, Tom, my boyfriend. We've been together for over 2 years. At first everything was perfect. He was caring, gentle, and made me feel special. But after a while, everything started to change." She paused, eyes distant, as if recalling the painful moments. "He started changing. Actually, he wasn't who I thought he was. He had habits, ways of treating me that I didn't notice at first. Harsh words, unfair actions that I first thought were just unintentional. But gradually, I realized that it wasn't love anymore. It was control. He started getting jealous for no reason, accusing me of not caring about him, saying I was more focused on work and my friends than on him." "So, you couldn't take it anymore?" I asked softly, still processing everything. Sarah nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "Yeah, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to leave, Jackie. I couldn't live in a relationship like that. I needed space, time to figure things out, to see what I really wanted in life." I looked at her, feeling my heart tighten. I hadn't realized the weight of what Sarah had been through. I had only seen her distant and cold, but now I understood she had been carrying so much more. "But why did you act like this toward me?" I asked, hurt. "You pushed me away, didn't show up today. You left me to deal with everything alone without an explanation." Sarah lowered her head, silent for a long moment. "I know. I was wrong. But when I saw you happy, when I saw you preparing to be a mother, I felt like I was being left behind. I couldn't face that. I felt jealous. I was jealous that you had things I could never have. And all those emotions kept bubbling up inside me, and I didn't know what to do with them." "You don't have to be jealous of me, Sarah," I said, my voice breaking. "You're my best friend. I always want you to have the best things in life. I don't understand why you pushed me away like that. You could have talked to me, shared your struggles, but you didn't." She sighed deeply, her face full of regret. "I know. I thought if I just pushed everything away, if I distanced myself from the people I care about, maybe everything would be fine. But honestly, I hurt you, I hurt myself. I didn't want to be selfish, but I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to." I squeezed her hand gently, feeling the weight of her words. "I understand, Sarah, but we can't always push away the negative feelings by avoiding them. You have to face them, and I'm here to help you." Sarah looked at me, her eyes full of apology. "I'm so sorry, Jackie. I didn't know how to make it right, but I promise I'll try. I'll try to fix things and start over." I smiled softly, even though my heart was still heavy with concern. "Don't worry, Sarah. We can start again. Slowly, but I won't leave you. You don't have to face this alone." Sarah hugged me tightly, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel the distance between us. I could feel, in that moment, that despite everything, our friendship could be healed. We would get through this, just like we had when we were younger. After that conversation, things began to shift between Sarah and me. There was still so much unspoken tension between us, but I knew that healing wouldn't happen overnight. She needed time, and so did I. We took baby steps toward rebuilding the friendship we had once shared so freely, but it wasn't just about fixing our bond. It was about Sarah learning to heal from the pain she'd been carrying for so long. One afternoon, as I was sitting at the kitchen table, Sarah came over unexpectedly. She looked different. Not the cold, distant version of herself I had seen lately, but more like the Sarah I remembered. Her eyes were clear, and for the first time in a while, she smiled a real smile. "I wanted to tell you something," she said, sitting across from me. I looked at her curiously. "What's going on?" "I think I'm finally starting to understand some things," she began, her voice calm and steady. "For a long time I was lost in all the wrong things. I tried to fill the emptiness inside with toxic relationships, with jealousy, and with the idea of perfection. But none of that worked. And I finally realized that the love I needed was always right here, around me, with people who care about me for who I truly am." I felt my chest tighten as she spoke, her words cutting through all the hurt from before. I could see the pain and clarity in her eyes. I knew this moment wasn't just about her apologizing, it was about her awakening to the truth of what mattered. "I'm sorry," she added softly, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry for pushing you away. I was selfish. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you." I reached across the table, taking her hand. "Sarah, you don't need to apologize. We both got lost along the way, but we're here now, and that's what matters." She smiled through her tears, a mixture of relief and sadness on her face. "And I think I've also realized that I don't need to be in a toxic relationship to feel valued. I've always wanted to be loved, but I had to learn that love comes from being kind to myself first. It's not about fitting into someone else's idea of happiness. It's about finding peace within, and being surrounded by people who make you feel worthy, who help you grow." Her words echoed in my heart. "You deserve someone who loves you for exactly who you are, Sarah. Someone who values you, respects you, and wants to help you become the best version of yourself, just like I do." Sarah nodded, wiping away a tear. "And I think I'm finally ready to look for that person." I squeezed her hand. "You'll find them. I know you will. But don't forget, you've already got a pretty amazing friend right here, and that's a good place to start." It was then that Sarah's eyes brightened with a sense of understanding, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She stood up, her shoulders a little straighter, and a soft smile on her lips. "You're right. I've got you. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm enough." Over the next few weeks, Sarah made small but meaningful changes in her life. She took up painting again, something she hadn't done in years, and started to reconnect with old friends she had lost touch with. But most importantly, she began to look at herself with kindness and compassion, not as someone who needed to be fixed, but as someone who was already worthy of love. It wasn't long before Sarah met someone new, a man who truly saw her, flaws and all, and loved her for exactly who she was. He didn't try to change her, but instead supported her in becoming the best version of herself. She told me about him one evening, her voice full of excitement. "I think I've found him," she said, "the one who truly sees me for who I am and not who I'm supposed to be. It feels different this time, Jackie. This time, I feel like I can just be myself." I smiled, my heart swelling with happiness for her. "I'm so proud of you, Sarah. You deserve this. You've come so far, and I'm just glad to be here, watching you find your way." And she did find her way, back to herself, back to love, and most importantly, back to the truth that all along, the love she had been searching for had been there waiting for her to recognize it, with her true friends, with me, and with the people who truly mattered. As for me, I knew that this chapter of our lives would forever change the way we saw ourselves and each other. We were no longer just two friends drifting in the current of life. We were two women, strong in our own right, ready to embrace the love we deserved. At the end of this story, I can't help but feel proud of the growth I've gone through. I've learned that sometimes love isn't about what you get back, but how you know how to love and forgive the people around you, even when they've hurt you. Yes, I forgave Sarah, not only because she is my best friend, but because I understand that everyone carries their own burdens that they can't always easily share. Even though Sarah hurt me, I was ready to open my heart to understand her and give her a chance to make things right. I can't deny that this journey wasn't easy. The feeling of being abandoned, being ignored, can make anyone feel hurt and lost. But I realized that I grew stronger from those challenges. I learned to love and forgive, not just Sarah, but also myself. I know that sometimes forgiveness is the key to making everything better. While I know that not everything will always be as easy as it seems, I believe that my actions didn't just help Sarah, they helped me grow as well. Now I feel confident in my decisions and I'm ready to face any challenge in the future. So, what do you think about how I handled this situation? Do you think my forgiveness was too much, or was it the kind of maturity I needed? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please share your opinions below. Thank you for joining me in this story.